all men who hold top jobs in various branches of the military, all urging the role of military commanders in sexual assault cases not be diminished.
Our goal should be to hold commanders more accountable, not render them less able to help us correct the crisis.
Making commanders less responsible and less accountable will not work. It will undermine the readiness of the force.
A unit will rise or fall as a direct result of the leadership of its commanding officer. Commanding officers never delegate responsibility. They should never be forced to delegate their authority.
I have a daughter who is looking at coming into the United States Air Force. I will not be tolerant of this crime.
Then, among the senators who questioned the military's wisdom were 7 women serving on the committee, including Senators Kirsten Gillibrand and Clara McCaskill, both of whom have proposed legislation to reform how the military handles sexual assault cases.
While you are all so dedicated and determined, not all commanders are objective. Not every single commander necessarily wants women in the force. Not every single commander believes what a sexual assault is. Not every single commander can distinguish between a slap on the ass and a rape, because they merge all of these crimes together.
There are 2 problems. One is you have sexual predators who are committing crimes. 2, you have work to do on the issue of a respectful and healthy work environment. These are not the same issues. And with all due respect, General Odierno, we can prosecute our way out of the first issue. We can prosecute our way out of the problem of sexual predators who are not committing crimes of lust. My years of experience in this area tell me they are committing crimes of domination and violence. This isn't about sex. This is about assaultive domination and violence.
Well, this is food for thought. Joining me right now is Missouri Senator Clara McCaskill. I love the way you dichotomize these issues because, I mean, I hate it in my religion where they talk about priests molesting some young altar boy. Tell me what you said, what you meant by molest. I want to know what we're talking about here. Now, let's talk. I love the way you break this down between actual crimes, which would be crimes outside of the military, and discipline problems in terms of how you treat other workers. This issue of rape, if you uncovered charges or cases where women have been raped, and we all know what that means, and gotten away with it in the military.
Oh, of course. In fact, not just in the military, but also in the civilian criminal justice system. The issue here is the military doing everything it can to prioritize the prosecution of these predators and support the victims? Or have they mushed it all together into some kind of, we've got to make sure there's not dirty jokes being told, and we've got to make sure there's not sexual harassment? 2 separate problems. Right. They don't even have the statistics, Chris.
Why do they do
really,
it?
Well, I think
everybody
did it
knows the
originally.
difference between physical behavior and maybe bad speech that's not appropriate to any workplace. But rape, it used to be a capital crime in a lot of states, especially in the South. I mean, it isn't some, bad behavior. It's a serious, almost murder in the history of common law, as you know. You're the prosecutor.
Right. Well, I think the reason this happened was, in fact, General Dempsey said today, 15 years ago, they thought if they captured the information under the large title of unwanted sexual contact, they could get at the problem. But that was part of their wrong-headed thinking on this. You don't get at this problem by doing training. You get at this problem by training investigators, getting victim advocates, creating an environment where victims feel safe about coming forward, going after people who retaliate against victims, and putting these people in prison.
Why would a commanding officer, or say a middle-level officer, major, why would a major or a colonel put up with what he knew is to be sexual abuse, and that's criminal actions? Wouldn't that destroy the morale of the women serving as commissioned, non-commissioned, and as enlisted people? Wouldn't that ruin the whole esprit of the operation to have it known that women are not protected by their superior officers from this horrible stuff?
Well, don't get me wrong. I think most commanders, they want to get these cowards and they want to get them out. The question is, do they view this as a problem to get rid of, or do they view this as a mission to prosecute the predators who have joined the military? I think too often it's probably been the first rather than the latter, and I think we're changing that culture now. I think all of these scandals and the pressure, especially the women on the Armed Services Committee are bringing to bear on this, has made them realize that generals cannot be overturning jury convictions. You've got to prioritize protecting these victims and making them feel comfortable about coming forward. And if you don't get after this, you're going to really end up with a military where women just aren't willing to serve because they don't feel safe.
How do you give women, when they're surrounded by men who have more rank on them, the confidence to stand up for their rights as serving military people?
Well, I think one of the things you have to do is you have to have a command structure that takes retaliation against someone who reports a sexual assault as serious as they do the sexual assault. In other words, you've got to really put your thumb on people who are making these women's lives miserable. And by the way, men too. I mean, there are men being sexually assaulted in the military.
By other men.
By other men. And you really need to get after this from looking through the prism of, are we protecting the victim? And if you do that, you're going to have a lot more prosecutions, and ultimately, you're going to turn the corner on this problem.
I think the more you talk about the men being sexually assaulted by other men, the more you'll get some general interest from the male side, unfortunately. Let's take a look at Senator McCain, who amazes me sometimes with the truth and the goodness of what he says. And this is an example he expressed the other day, his disgust with the apparent epidemic of sexual misconduct in the military. And he is an ultimate